We'd like to call this meeting to order of the Select Board on this fine January 31st. By roll call.
Newman present.
Smith present.
Branson present. And now if you all join me to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mark,
Yes.
since we have a quorum, I believe we have to call a meeting to order also. There's a quorum, and we're going to discuss stuff, so.
You're not going to take votes tonight.
No, but it doesn't matter. There's a quorum. Can't even discuss things.
Go
Well,
ahead.
it's not posted, so you can't.
Yeah.
Is it posted?
No.
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 So any group can attend another meeting.
Yeah.
All three of them would attend yours, and if they don't, as long as they're not discussing anything.
Well, I thought we were invited here to discuss things, which is the issue.
No, we're just going to tell you things.
Okay.
If we can move on.
Are we married?
Some days it feels like that, trust me. Okay, and now if you don't mind, we'd like to...
Carry on?
Oh, you're swell, truly. Okay, and Kristen and David, did you have a chance to read the minutes?
I have.
Yes, and a motion to approve the minutes from January 17th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Newman, aye.
Smith, aye.
Cranston, aye. Okay, and you might note that we are missing a vital part of our team here, in that Kama is out sick. So, but that's okay. We just want her to get well. And then we have a public hearing this evening, and it's regarding earth removal permit renewal for Amarillo on 65 Leominster Road. So I would open the public hearing with a roll call.
Newman, aye.
Smith, aye.
Branson, aye. All right, and I believe Mr. Amarillo is here to speak to us
I am.
and answer any questions that anybody might have.
Okay.
Well, get up at the
Stand up.
podium. Oh, yeah, you're not going to stay there and not be seen. Okay, so we have the application for Amarillo down on, pretty much everybody's familiar, down off of Route 12 and 62. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your project, Mr. Amarillo?
I can't tell you how many years we've been there, but it's been a little while. Our purpose of having that gravel pit is basically for our own use on our own projects. We do a lot of work for Mass Highway and towns and so forth. Currently working in Fitchburg, I think Leominster, Templeton, maybe one other city up there. Take gravel as needed. I'm not anticipating any major changes up there next year as far as quantities or anything along those lines. Basically the same as what we did last year. The site has been stabilized for years as far as runoff with various retention ponds that we've built through the years. I don't think we've ever had an issue in all these years with runoff issues and so forth, things like that. Any questions?
Kristen, did you have any questions?
My only question would be, and I know in working with your neighbor, there was the discovery of a perennial stream right on the property line, and it's very difficult to see. I don't know if it's on here. It's a very small drawing where that comes down into the area that you would be working.
Oh, does that come down to the area we're working?
Yeah, I just can't really tell, on here whereabouts it is on the map and how far down it goes into the area where you are working, because that's sort of, I guess.
We're not. When we refiled, we came back once for the initial permit and came back for a, well, I don't know what you call it, but we had a certain area that we decided with the board that we were going to dig in. In other words, we're not going to just blow open the whole area. Then we came back for a second area, which we cleared years ago, Obviously, we're outside of the stream. The stream doesn't come towards us. In other words, it doesn't, I don't know where the stream goes. I know it's on the plan, but there's not a stream that I've ever witnessed, and even in a rain event, nothing comes our way. So I'm not sure where this stream is going, but it doesn't impact what we're doing.
Anything else?
I'm just wondering if it's something Concom should look at, since it is right on the property line, just to make sure that we're covering all the bases.
Okay, well.
I know you're not asking me that question, but when
Right,
when we
it's kind of a newly discovered, it's a perennial stream, and in doing projects with the property next door, it was sort of a
Right.
discovered stream right on that property line, which seems to be right in the area where you're
When we went-
working, so I know it's something you may not be aware of.
No,
I
we
just wanna-
absolutely are, because when we went for this permit, it was discussed, and it was discussed, and I think we're outside of the buffer zone,
Okay.
but it was discussed, and, you know, maybe it's new members on the board, of course, but the board was aware of it, I was aware of it, and, but as I say, it doesn't impact anything that we're doing at this time.
Okay.
David?
These are annual permits, one of these, how long is this permit good for?
They've been a year.
They're a year.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no questions other than that.
Okay. And I have no questions. It is a renewal. You're not changing anything according to this. You're working on 2 acres. Just to ease other people's minds, there is no blasting on this site. It's all strictly earth removal. Okay, so anybody else have any questions? Sir? Stand up and introduce yourself.
Thomas Boudreaux.
Okay.
Chris. So it's just a question. I did actually walk there today. I did find the stream, so does go between the 2 properties. But I just want to get maybe just clarification, so that there is no plan to do any blasting, and that stated in the
Right.
application.
They don't, this piece of property, I can't even remember if they've ever blasted on it.
We've never blasted.
Yeah.
We're working with the, you know, the easy stuff
Right.
first. And I see no blasting in our future.
Okay.
When we do blast, we'll be going for the necessary permits
Right.
and, you know, everything that goes along with it, so there'll be plenty of notification.
Okay, great. That's good, because the other one, Onyx, when they had their paperwork, they didn't mention.
All right, we're not speaking of Onyx tonight, they're not here.
And, yeah, we want to make sure that, just want to confirm that there's no blasting.
There's no blasting.
Second is that, I know that the area is about 20 acres, but there's only about 5 acres that's cleared. So is there any plan to go into the area that's already wooded?
Well, not at this time, not in the near future as well. We've got plenty of material where we're digging, and it makes sense to go in phases, and if you noticed, we came in off the street, came up a level, and then possibly come up one more level. A little common sense in how we approach it. We're not just digging from Route 12.
Right.
and heading in, so,
Or just normal excavation, nothing, not looking to expand beyond the...
No, I like the way it's going. I like the way it's going. I don't know about you, but I like the way it's going. And
I like the way yours is going too. Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, no?
No, we were concerned if there was going to be any blasting and hearing this. That relieves any concerns I had.
Okay.
Will there be a time when Onyx will be in front of the board that we could question them?
The Onyx will be in front of the planning board sooner rather than later. So just keep an eye on the planning board agenda. Well, I can't say sooner rather than later, it's been ongoing for a while. So, Mr. Amarillo, anything else you would like to add?
I heard a rumor that this might be a 3-year renewal. I don't know if that's something I dreamt, or is this going to be a 1-year?
1 year.
Well, I'm not sure.
There was a possibility it could be 3, but, you know, to protect any changes that might happen, go with the 1.
Okay, no, I understand. No questions.
Mr. Bashad?
Hi, I'm Wayne Burchard, 171 Raleigh Hill Road. I've never met you, but I'm going to say something good about you.
He must want something,
No, in
watch
the
out,
name
Mr.
of
Amarillo.
institutional memory, was it 2007 or so? Mr. Amarillo with the other property owners that are now, I guess, Onyx.
Okay, can we get to the question, Blaine?
No, I'm getting there. Because there's a point that people need to hear,
Okay, let's go.
all right? They agreed to provide access to, for a trail for the town. And the fact is that of all of the people, as part of that process, who had actually provided an easement, Mr. Amarillo was the only one. And so there's an easement for Wachusett Greenways. I don't know if people know that.
Yeah.
And it was done because he's a man of his word. So, and I've never met him. So I'd just like to point that out and put that on the minutes that people know that. Because I think it's impressive. People actually do what they say they're going to do.
Okay, thank you.
Is that short enough?
Okay, now I'd entertain a motion to approve the earth removal permit for Amarillo.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Newman, aye.
Smith, aye.
Krantz and I. Okay, thank you, Mr.
All
Amarillo.
right, well, thank you.
Yep. And now I'd entertain a motion.
Carmen's over here whispering things.
She's sending him text. I would entertain a motion to adjourn or close the public session.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Newman, aye.
Smith, aye.
France and I. Okay. You guys still want to stay or you want to sneak out before we get into the next? Oh, man, I didn't tell you to go.
Is it that obvious?
You can tell when somebody has one foot down going. All right. Next on our agenda is to hear and get an update from our facilities manager. Chuck?
Thank you and good evening. Good to see you again, Kristen, Dave.
Ha, ha, ha.
For the first few months, I've been building relationships with the department heads, the directors, and the contractors in town here, and really good relationships. I can certainly say that the people of this town do care about their buildings. I've gotten a lot of information, a lot of knowledge from not just the directors, but the officers, the firemen, the librarians, the DPW guys, up and down the line at there. So they've got a group of people who do care about the buildings, and it shows in how the buildings are operating at this time. Some of the first accomplishments we got, we just got the police station retro commissioned. There was an HVAC retro commissioning effort. When I first got there, that was one of the biggest problems. I had an air handler in the ceiling that wasn't fully functional yet. So I got the contractor who was paid to do that to come get it functional. And then I solicited a contractor that I used to work with who does a lot of HVAC retro commissioning. And working with Bill, we got a Maya grant to have them come out and help us get the controls, make sure all the equipment was running fine, and do all the work in that building so everybody can be comfortable. And we just finished that up. 90% of it's finished now. We just finished that up yesterday. About another 10%, we just need to go through the AC in the proper ambient conditions. So that building's working very well right now. Hopefully Sean will second that. Created some utility shut-off documents for every building. Each building should have a document that you go in and you know where the gas is shut off, you know where the oil is shut off, you know where electricity, any utility that's coming in case of an emergency, so nobody goes down in the basement without knowing what's going on and where to look for something. Again, that's a safety issue to me. We got the building management control system updated. It was about 5 versions behind the software package. So I got a company to come out and do the upgrade, and as well as go through the system, make sure it's operating fine. I also added what they call a TOSI box. It's a remote box that you can tie into the system remotely. And so now Sheila can go on her phone and turn on, turn off any of the HVAC equipment. You know, if we have to use it in a shelter in place in a moment's notice, we can get the temperature up there pretty quickly without having anybody go in. So we've upgraded that system over there. A couple other things, I purchased some ice melt in bulk, created some savings there and got it distributed to the buildings. I've got all the equipment lists together, all the data's been collected for the equipment, and that's going to be reflected in the next portion of this. We got the fire escape inspected at 1835. Did a little bit of work on it, got it inspected, so that's good for 5 years. And we had some sprinkler deficiencies that Bill and I coordinated with our contractor. Bill did a lot of the legwork up front, getting the prices together from Cogswell. Turned it over to me. We got a lot of that work done. So for the next 6 months, we're going to be looking at a couple of projects. The library just signed a proposal for a new fire alarm system over there. That will go in conjunction with the new elevator upgrades. It's a requirement of the law to make sure that the elevator does not run during a fire. It just returns to the one floor so the firemen can use it, operate it if they have to. That's not available at this time, so that's just one of the things that will happen to make this a compliant piece of machinery. We've had discussions with Brightly Software, which owns a Maintenance Direct, a CMMS program, computerized maintenance management system. I want to bring that in, hopefully in the new fiscal year. I have a notebook about inch thick. You've seen it, of all the details I have that I've done. Not all of them, I haven't captured 100%, but probably about 90% of the items I've done since I started here back in June I've captured. And this would be the repository that would keep all this data. You can build reports out of it, you can do capital forecasting out of it. So it's something I'd like to bring in with also our neighboring town, West Boylston. Hopefully that'll go through and that'll be a huge asset to us going forward. Looking for a contractor right now to do the maintenance. I've had them come in. I've walked around with 5 different contractors. I'm starting to get pricing in. I just told Bill I got some pricing in today from one company, another the other day, so we're going to do some comparison and see if this is going to be a worthwhile effort, that one contractor, and create some savings through volume. And we're also I'm also involved in West Boylston in that one too. We're looking at the same thing for cleaning services, see if we can create some savings there. Generator at the senior center has a bad hazard gasket. Contractor is waiting for one more part, we can get that done. And they're also at the senior center looking to install some bollards on their parking lot side of the building. They've got concerns about, the parking lots there, the sidewalks there, small mulch bed areas there, and then the building. There's no lip, no curb, no nothing there to stop anything from happening. So I think that's a worthwhile opportunity for us. And then I've worked a little bit with the Historical Commission on the old schoolhouse there on 62. What's the name of the schoolhouse?
West Sterling.
West Sterling, thank you.
Not just the old one?
On the back side, I did some numbers. As I said, I've been keeping track of everything. I've done it by building. And these are some of the numbers there. Who's put in the most requests? Well, it's the town hall. Bill's.
You're very needy.
And not all of these were addressed by me either. I think the total is somewhere around 150 requests have been addressed. Now, this does not include the regular maintenance that I do routinely. Whether it's HVAC filters that I've changed up here, or checking the emergency lights, fire extinguishers, whatever. That's not included in those numbers, but these are just requests for,
Help.
Requests for help, sure. Whether it's fixing a piece of furniture or, cleaning a coil. And the only barrier that I've found to date is the moving around of large items for myself. I've been using my vehicle, and if I needed a ladder somewhere, I'd call up Mark Pruno or Val Pruno and ask them. Those 2 guys have been absolutely great, along with all the other people in the town that have been helpful to me. Those 2 have been really super help. And they've given me a lot of intrinsic knowledge from, the years and what to look for here and there, so. That's it, that's the first 6 months or so. Any questions I can?
Kirsten?
Just want to say, it sounds like you've been very busy, and it sounds to me like you're very proactive, and I appreciate that, so thank you. Just wondering, with the moving the large items around, I know we're working with West Boylston, do they have a vehicle that could be shared that they would be?
It's the same in both towns.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. And then
And I don't want to think that we're doing it every day. It's like I've needed a couple of, 10-foot extension 20-foot extension ladders here and there. And I mentioned it to them, they have it there the next day for me.
Right.
So they've been very, very helpful.
And do you have any numbers as far as the cost, just out of curiosity, for your computerized maintenance management system?
Yes, I do. We have, the start of it is, to kick it off, it's $11,000. And then it's around 6,000, a little bit less than 6,000 per year for the maintenance and upgrades.
All right, thank you.
David?
Just thank you. I know all the sound employees that I've talked with are very happy with what you've done for them. And as your opening statement, as you've already learned, the people in town really care about their buildings and properties.
Yes.
And they really care about what they do here. I mean, we have by far the greatest group of employees and volunteer groups in the state. So, thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's really good.
Chuck, as far as the generator of the senior center, head gasket, did you come to any conclusions as to who's responsible for that generator?
For paying for the repair,
Yeah.
I'm going to be.
Personally, you're the guy. I mean, thank you so much.
Little
That's
collection.
such good news.
No, it's going to come out of my the budget for facilities.
What a hero. Okay. Lynn, you had a question?
I just wondered, does the DPW have vehicles to move some of the large things and ladders and that kind of thing?
I'm sure that Chuck could check
And
with
Ryan
that.
has offered.
Yes,
It's just at the moment's notice.
Yeah.
It's happening right there, so. But yeah, Ryan's offered, and those guys have offered their help too, so.
Any other questions? What? No, he's not getting a truck. Give him a
Just
footstool.
F-350 would be fine.
Yeah? Oh, now you know my name. Anyway, thanks, Chuck, and yes, as everybody else said,
Thank you.
all positive reports coming from every which way as far as what's been done and how it's been done. Appreciate it a lot.
Okay.
What, Lynn, what?
Just one other thing to think about, we were wondering as part of FinCom and Capital, are there things that are in individual departments' budgets that maybe should be in a facilities budget where you could leverage volume or contacts or whatever better than maybe individual departments could? And could you think about that maybe for our further on meetings when we discuss budgets and that kind of
Yeah, that was my goal with the HVAC stuff, and also with the Power Up generator. I'd failed to put that in there, but Power Up was here. I was able to bring them and give them 4 more machines in West Boylston. So now, we'll hopefully start seeing the savings for that. And it's not going to be thousands and thousands of dollars, but it will be, helping us out.
This would be a good time to readjust since we're going through budgets and capital, so.
Good.
Well, appreciate it. I'm having a really good time, and thank you, all 3 of you. Thank you very much for bringing me on.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Chuck.
night.
See you tomorrow.
Okay. All right, and now, as everybody can see, we have some finance and capital people here. And we just kind of wanted to get together before we get too far along in the whole budget situation. I guess Bill doesn't want to talk to us, but before I even start that though, I have to say to George, I'm sorry. I did something last night that I really don't like anybody to do at a meeting. talk at a turn, not ask the chair to be able to speak. So I apologize for that. You know, we're talking over you or back
I
and
don't
forth.
recall that.
Well, good. You did say you were old, so I guess, you know, I
See.
shouldn't have even brought it up. No, but, you know, to just interrupt or
Accepted.
jump in. Okay. So I wanted Bill, and this is not just for the people in the room, but for the benefit of the people that are watching, to kind of update us all on where we are with the finance, you know, so we kind of get all on the same page.
So one of the things.
And speak slowly.
Sure. One of the things, fast talker, fast walker, eater, everything. I don't know if you had sent it out to everybody, the spreadsheet on the personnel stuff. I know I had the formula backwards, but obviously over the last 5 years, this is like the first year we've pretty much been fully staffed for an entire year. So part of that comes with, you know, all of the notes that I put on that side column of this is our third TA. We had a year, I don't know, how long were you on planning board without a planner? Year and a half?
2 years. 2 years.
Almost 2 years. That was 2 postings. We're on our third conservation agent. Our treasurer collector office is almost entirely new. So most of those have been pretty significant changes in a lot of departments, and I think since I've been here, we've hired over 30 people from whether it, you know, retirement, moving, you know, going back to school, whatever it is. So I know that you guys had mentioned last night about the benefits last year had been under. This year it's going to come over and be a reserve fund transfer, about $30,000. So there was some unemployment things in there and whatever else that accounts for that. So when it looks at those numbers, a lot of those are not fully staffed, you know, to be 100% accurate day to day where we were. So I think that's on the personnel side. And since it's not a group, I guess if you had any questions or comments right off the bat. No? I'm directing it to you as the chair of the group, if you had anything right off the top. I know
Well, it
you
doesn't
had
even
this-
have to come from George, but
Yeah.
if anybody else, I mean Liz, Lynn, Mark.
I know you guys can't take any action, so.
Yeah, no, I.
Yeah.
No action, but if you
I
had
know
any
you've seen
question at all, you know, to clarify what you've already been working on and where you want to go or where we can go with this. Okay, move on.
All right. And then I was watching the last couple meetings. I know there were some questions regarding debt service. So last year we worked on, was it last year? 2 years ago we approved the $1.3 million for the water department, and then the three other projects, the tractor, the fire truck, and the whatever the other thing was. I'm not sure off the top of my head. So I think you had noted that there was a significant short-term interest that wasn't used. So we would have used that if we had kept the short-term borrowing, but we bonded it in December.
Yeah,
So
that's what I
now,
figured.
yeah, now you have the debt schedule which says 100% of whatever we budget is 100% of what we use.
And we have no short-term interest line item
No.
on this year's.
So if we go to try and bond it for July 1st, whatever we do, there won't be a short term, it'll just be the long term. So Vicky, Fred, Ryan and I had discussed that. Obviously, we'd have to discuss with them if we had any of those town projects in there. One of the things I know you'd kept it in the other column, but I don't want to get in a habit of bonding paperwork for an engineering study. So maybe we flip that vehicle or whatever had happened, but you don't want to get in the habit of, you know, borrowing for paperwork essentially.
It's perfectly permissible, though, Bill.
Oh, it's perfectly permissible, just like using free cash as a, you know, funding source, but it's not a good practice. I mentioned the benefits. You had questions about the HR compensating balance account.
Yeah, what that line item
Yeah,
is.
so longevity, and then if there's any sick leave or vacation buybacks, if somebody were to leave, retire, whatever, that would come out of there.
It's What items?
Sick leave, buyback, and vacation.
The HR line. that you were
Sick leave,
asking.
buyback, and vacation?
Yep. So if
So when-
somebody retires from the town of Sterling, they would get 10% value of their sick time. If you leave, obviously, you're required to give them their vacation time.
Okay.
So there's a significant.
All right, these are retirement benefits.
Or
So the
if I left
vacation-
tomorrow, you still have to pay me the vacation stuff.
So the vacation is also a buyback?
Yes,
Okay.
that's
All
federal.
right, so it's nothing current, it's for departing employees?
Yes, and we have a significant population that is, eligible to go at any time.
Okay, because that's been running at a,
Yeah, 1 year we.
spent considerably.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a what-if HR account that if you need to use it, that's there. And it's allocated.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, so you've got some 30-year employees that, one bad cup of coffee away from, have a nice day.
Bill, speaking of HR, do we have a policy of doing an exit interview with people who leave voluntarily?
Most people we have. Yep.
And what do we do with that information?
I would use it for what we're doing, whether it's changing a job description or whether it's inter-office relationships or, whatever it is.
Okay, and who does the interview? The
Me.
department head? Or you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been doing.
Would you like one, George?
Lauren, unfortunately, I'm here for a while.
Asking.
Nice try.
So, obviously, we still have to break out our water and SMLD, but I think there was, do you remember if it was 6 or 7% in there for Worcester County retirement? Off the top of your head, any of you?
I don't.
I think it was 6.
I think it was 6. It's probably gonna look closer to 10. I did send you the thing, invoice, whatever
I
it is,
appreciate that.
which I'm not an actuary, I don't claim to be one, so
It's quite detailed,
that's a
isn't it?
lot of numbers that
Well, it's very informative, actually.
not sure how that works exactly. I think there were some questions on the facility budget. A lot of it's seasonal because the oil at the 1835, Liz or Lynn, one of you I think asked it. Lynn. Yeah, facilities expense budget was low. A lot of it's for the oil at the 1835, so that'll come through in the next couple months. And obviously, some of those projects were slow starting when Chuck was brand new at the beginning of the fiscal year, so. And then, I guess it will be a select board finance committee group. I know you guys had a fairly long discussion about chapter 90 and the budgeted money. I know I plan on not adding to the 250 to the 300, but maybe even reducing it because we are getting the fair share funding, so we get about 500. And then we get another 267 from the 4% millionaires tax, the fair share amendment, which gives us obviously where we're trying to get to, which is matching what the pavement management study says we should be getting annually to maintain those roads.
I think one of the observations we had, Bill, was on chapter 90 and maybe the fair share as well, is figuring out a way to show that in our budgeting process. Right now, it's deficit spending, according to Ryan, and we get reimbursed, so it really shows up almost nowhere in our books. We had to figure out a way of making it visible so that everybody's aware of it. That we're not just spending $250,000 on roadway, we're spending $250 plus $440,000.
My recommendation would have whatever the annual chapter 90 is plus any accrued balance, and just say this is the available funds, and here's the pavement management study. If we can do 2 roads, we'll do 2 roads. If we can do one, do one. I don't want to pigeonhole them into doing, well, we're only doing X next year because it's 400,000 and we don't have enough to do another 200 feet of, or whatever it is. So I think you have on that matrix, sale of used equipment and cemetery lot, whatever. Put the chapter 90 balance in there.
Yeah, that's what we're noodling over doing, is showing it as the capital expense up to the limit of the allocation on a year, and then where does it come from? It comes from the chapter 90 funding, right?
Now, is the fair share money ongoing or 1 year?
It's a 4% tax on them every year, so.
Okay, so it's ongoing.
It is in the governor's budget for '25 to continue on.
And it's earmarked for infrastructure or roads?
Well, infrastructure and education.
Education.
So it can be used for buildings?
It was sold largely on education.
Yeah, I think it's, no, not infrastructure in terms of buildings, but horizontal infrastructure, I think.
Okay, so roads,
Road, sidewalks.
bridges,
Yeah.
culverts.
And the money that's in our budget, the 250 that we have in there obviously has less restrictions than Chapter 90. So obviously Ryan uses that when, you know, it's something that's not Chapter 90 eligible, like paying for the culverts or something that he did up on Kendall Hill or Justice Hill or whatever, so.
He also commented, he spends that first
Yeah.
because the Chapter 90 can be rolled every year.
Which then goes into a, you know, legislative argument because a lot of towns bank that money for multiple years, but then the legislators say, these towns aren't using it, why not? City of Boston almost never uses their money, so they've got millions and millions built up, you know, where town of Athol, when I was on the select board, had to build it up for 5 years to do a bridge, but there's no other way to come up with whatever that funding source is otherwise, so. It's definitely an argument among legislators and the MMA, how towns are using that because they have no other ability to come up with significant amounts of money, so they save it, which also makes them look bad in the legislators' eyes when we keep asking for more and more money, but other towns aren't really using it. Some towns just don't use it for whatever reason.
A few years ago, we got into where there was like $1 million in it, and everybody was asking, why aren't we spending it? We really didn't get a good answer at the time from the DPW.
Yeah.
So, and now he spends it, so.
I don't think we had the skill set at the time, Maureen, to be honest with you. Ryan is a fabulous manager.
Yes, he is.
And he also sort of put a cap on what his, not only physical capabilities of the department, but also managerial capabilities are somewhere between $700,000 and $800,000 for road work in a year, which was interesting to hear.
And we also have other project, you know, grant-funded projects where, you know, the downtown work that's going on is another major thing with deadlines on that at the end of the fiscal year. Maple Street sidewalks, which is going to be another thing coming up onto Bird Street, also at the end of the year, so those have to get done. The beach obviously has a deadline on those.
Yeah, Ryan's getting pulled in a lot of directions. So,
we all are.
okay, so it sounds like we're in agreement that the road work, as opposed to a town resident looking at our budgets now seeing 250, is actually going to be represented on the capital funding matrix that Joe has put together as a funding source of Chapter 90 monies.
But I wouldn't put it as an allocated number, just an available
X number of
number.
dollars, and then road work utilizing, or some verbiage, X number of dollars, so it's a wash. Okay,
And then,
that sounds good. That makes it transparent and visible.
yeah, just that it exists. We don't know how much we're going to use because if you can get another, you know, half mile out of what you're doing, get it done. You know, if we have additional funds that we don't get done with that Maple Street, and we can do another 100 feet of sidewalk,
So be it.
well, we're going to do it.
Are we contracting any of that out, or
Oh, yeah.
is DPW?
Yeah, Lazaro got that one. Yeah, we put that out to bid this winter, fall? I don't know, sounds familiar. Sometime in the last couple months.
Yeah, gotcha.
And we had to get an extension on the grant before they could get started because it was supposed to be done by the calendar year, but this was TA was gone, planner was gone, it was something they wrote together, and then Ryan and I inherited and had to get it moving, so. Yeah, we've got, you know, $700,000 in grants to get done by the end of the fiscal year for various different projects.
Well, you had mentioned something about bonding. I have a question, because I know nothing.
Can we wait on that until he finishes with this?
Sure.
I only had two other things. I know there was some questions about the legal services. Obviously, I can't speak specifically about any of those, but three of the fairly significant items were picked up by Maya versus the town based on how they were claims against us. So if they were not picked up by our insurance company, we'd have blown through that and then some. So you never know what could come up, and we obviously have some ongoing other issues that could potentially still run that up quickly. So looking at it, I'm still waiting for one piece of information, otherwise I'd have a more recent draft of the budget for you, like I had mentioned last week. I don't mind taking some money out of there, but 50%'s, potentially dangerous. And then, based on that, if we're looking at a 10% on insurance, 10% on Worcester County retirement, I think that $400,000 goal is going to be nearly impossible, because more than half of it's eaten up just in those two items. Let alone the, and then bonding, yeah.
Because I know nothing about municipal finance. If you were going to do a project, and let's say it was $2.1 million, it's going to take you 3 years to complete it. How would you pay for that? I mean, how would you bond it? Would you take short term for 700, short term for 700, and then a long term for 2.1, or?
So you can do that. So we did that with our broadband project. Sorry. Out in Beckett, it was $4.5 million. So we'd borrow, 1.7 at a time to get that going.
On a short-term basis or a long-term?
Short-term, have one payment, but not really do anything, and then bonded the entire amount at the end.
Okay, when it was completed, okay.
Yeah, that's what we did with the original 1.3 in those 3 projects. We had the short-term note, but if we do this 1.3 and the others, we would probably just bond it right out of the gate. And those GO bonds typically have a much more favorable.
On a 3-year project, the example I was giving, what would we do? Would we just grab the 2.1 million on day one and spend it as we go, or would we short-term it?
It depends on what it is. If it's
a building.
So if you're looking at a new school, they typically do some short terms until they bond the entire thing at the end of construction.
Yeah.
Where it's a water main project, you're probably doing it all up front because you're paying for some of the engineering and water mains all at the same time.
And even though that's
and you're also buying the materials up front.
Okay, because even though that's going to take a 2-year project for the 1.3, we're grabbing the 1.3 up front so that we have the bucket to spend as we move forward.
So it depends on the project and the scope and the timeline and materials and all sorts of things.
Okay, so
the major project over at that was approved for the water department at the west, out on 140, the pump house, the water pump house.
Yeah.
It's almost a year wait time on the generator part of it. So you've got to get that money up front to be able to do that along with the other projects. So.
All right, and the same would go if that 2.1 was for a bridge and it was going to take 3 years, we'd probably grab it up front and just build the bridge.
Where my broadband network was incremental, we did it, over time.
As you lay it, you sell them, you hook them to the houses.
We had to wait for Verizon to put Verizon and Eversource to put in all the new poles. We obviously had to string the fiber, we had to lash the fiber, we had to get the fiber to the houses. And,
yeah. Okay. I was just wondering. Thanks.
So.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, Kristen, do you have any questions, answers, suggestions?
You wish I had answers.
Did you bring your wallet?
It's out in the car.
Okay.
No questions.
Good, thank you, Bill.
All right, Joe, any questions?
Yeah, I guess I want to, are we going to discuss Monty Tech next? I guess.
That's the next agenda item.
Probably.
I guess I'll defer to that.
Okay. Mark?
Because it was about that.
Lynn, you all set?
Yeah.
Liz?
All set.
Paul?
I have one quick question back to the DPW. We're talking about the Chapter 90 and the
Paul, could you stand and speak up?
I'm sorry. Sorry, I was snowboarding all day, so.
Oh, you poor thing. Let's all feel bad.
Excuse me, for DPW, when we talk about the funding, Ryan put in for 300,000.
Yep.
Are you saying you're going to reduce that? Did I hear that correctly?
So yeah, he put in for 300 last year. I didn't even move it forward.
Yeah.
I kept it at the 200. I might even bring it down to like 225, knowing we're getting those additional funds, and it still gets us to the goal of where we're looking,
Okay, so
which is around the 800,000 a year.
So
Nearly 500, 200,
was it down
200.
to 300 or some other number?
250 is what it is this year. He put in for a $50,000 increase. I don't see that happening. So it will at least stay at the 250, if not reduce something else, because that's not, I mean, everybody likes nice roads, but it doesn't directly affect anybody's, I'm not laying off a person or something if we're cutting something.
Are you doing that because that's an easy one to cut, Bill?
It is an easy one to cut.
Plus the fact he said he's got a cap of 700 to 800,000. Did I overtalk you? Get out of here.
You gotta be recognized. Put your hand up.
I apologize.
You can't use my words. Do you want to have a question now
I do
before
have a
I go? It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'm here.
Part of reducing the funds was the combination of the Chapter 90 and the combination of the fair share is virtually at the cap that Ryan said he's capable of actually project managing for roads and sidewalks in the course of a year. He put the cap at 700 to 800,000.
I understand that.
Yeah, between fair share and Chapter 90, we're at 700.
All I'm trying to figure out is how much money's going back in the pool. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's all I'm asking. That's all I was asking. Okay, thank you.
And, well, that was it.
Well, you've already addressed some cuts in various departments.
Yeah.
Taken out some money already. They might be interested in hearing that.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for, like I said, one more piece of information, then I'll have a new draft of the budget to send over to them.
Okay.
You see that this week or next week?
I'm hoping to have it tomorrow, so.
Oh, perfect.
No kidding, right? I apologize to the man for doing something that I did last night, and he still does it himself.
I apologize.
Just saying.
So we have our assessment for FY '25 from Worcester Regional Retirement, but we have the enterprise funds that kick in, both water and SMLD, so to get our number, we have to break that out.
Gotcha.
So the form I had sent you isn't
It's a
the number that's
gross.
in the budget, because we have to break out the
It's
others.
a gross number.
So it's like 80%, but they have different staff for whatever numbers, so it's
Gotcha.
gonna fluctuate. So you can't just take the same percent every year.
Okay.
Okay, and Bill, last night there was some discussion. Apparently, you have hurt some people's feelings
Yes.
for not involving them in this capital budget proposal that you asked us
So
going to do.
the grant that we had received, the community compact, I am more concerned about next year's budget document than the capital one, because I think generally we have a pretty decent version of it. The first two tasks in there were data collection. You guys already have all of the requests, so that was one of them. And then some of the assets that we do have when it comes to the down the road tasks, which we've been delayed on a couple things due to illnesses and other items. That's when the committee starts getting involved in whatever it is, so.
Thank you.
At this point, no, we
got your
didn't need
email.
you, but, you know, it will be coming soon.
Are they looking at the same 5-year plan that we have been looking at, Bill, in terms of requests?
They have all the same requests you have. So that was the form that they gave us. They have all of the stuff back, so.
So we're aligned with what they're
And
looking?
yes, for the DPW stuff, they know that there are out years that are significant.
About the DPW
Yes.
building, okay, good.
Wow, now he's reading minds.
Well, we've been emailing.
Let's just go with the reading minds.
Liz, did you have any questions on that? I know you're part of that. Mr. Austin?
Good, thank
Feeling
you.
better about ourselves now that we weren't invited, but now we are?
Yes,
Okay.
very much.
All right.
We appreciate it.
One thing I do want to mention.
Maureen, I had one additional, I forgot to ask question of Bill.
Go ahead.
And that would be, according to the state record, it seems like we're being allocated about $265K on the fair share.
Yeah, 267, 265, something like that, yeah.
Does that ring true with?
Somewhere in there, yeah.
As well. do we have a projection for next year yet on that?
The revenues remain the same, probably.
Similar?
So they haven't funded 100 million, chapter 90's 200 million, so it's gonna be roughly 50%. The formula, like I said last week, is slightly different than what the chapter 90 formula is. It's based more on road miles than employment and population, so.
But you don't see any radical changes in that
If it
number?
gets funded at 100 million again, then no. And as long as that's the case, then, you know, I don't wanna say guarantee that it's going to happen, but.
I know. There are no
There's only
guarantees.
2 places it can go, so, based in the legislation, so unless they, change the legislation, we'll take the money and pave a road.
Take the money and run. Anything else from the audience? I just, a couple of things on my part. I just want us to all be cautious about, our job is not to disseminate budgets in different departments. Our job is to work with the different departments and see what their needs are. I know you have a list, needs and wants, whether it be capital or finance, and I just want us to be mindful of that. And mindful of the fact it's not always about the cost, it's about the service. You know, in Sterling, we happen to have very good services across the board. You know, so, and I did hear a comment at one of the meetings that was made about it would be less expensive for us to pay overtime than it is to pay another full-time employee in a particular department. I personally do not want my safety people, my ambulance, my EMTs, or my police to have to work more. I work more than 40 hours, no doubt, but I'm not a safety person. I just feed people. You know, so it's different, and I want us to be mindful of that when any of these departments come forward. The same with a plow driver. I don't want to see a plow driver, you know, out there for, you know, 40 hours or better than 40 hours after he's already worked a full day. So just that. And then I also wanted to, actually it's really not part of your budget process, but I did want to let you know that the RFP that you voted for at the special town meeting for the Board of Health, that has gone out. We have yet to get a response from any of those auditors. I don't understand it, but it's their busy season too, so we'll see what happens there.
And they have until March 1st?
March 1st
I think that's a Friday.
was the date. So, but it's out there. I don't want you to think that we ignored that. So I think, unless anybody else has any questions regarding finance or... And your name, sir?
George Handy, Finance Committee, resident of Sterling.
Go ahead.
I understand that we've built into the budget a 3% COLA for non-union employees.
Yes.
What was the science behind that number? Why not 2.5 or 3.5?
You want to give them 3.5?
No, I
Why?
don't want to do anything. I'm just asking what was the science between coming up with that as opposed to 2.5 or 3.5? There's got to be a rationale, I'm sure.
Typically, as far back as I can find through the contracts and whatnot, whatever the unions have settled at for a year is what everybody gets for that year.
It's also, historically was based on, because we have had years where we got 1%, you know, as opposed to 3%. But back in the day, it was based on what the feds were doing. We're not close to what the feds are doing right now.
Okay, so there's no real economic rationale. It's more tradition.
No, there's an economic rationale
Which
to
is?
it. Cost of living.
Okay.
You know, we want our employees, and even at 3%, our employees are not making a killing on it, and it's not keeping up with the cost of living. I mean, what was the 22.5% at one point was the rate that was going with the feds as far as any products out there. food products, I know for a fact, in less than, we all know it, because we all go to the market, right? So you go to the market, and over the course of less than 2 years, food costs went up 21.5%. So we're only asking that the employees get 3% just so they can keep up, basically, and make a living.
Well, actually, Maureen, that's a misconception on what we're asking of the employees and also giving them. We all understand that. We have step increases, so depending on how long an employee lasts in his job, he gets an increase on top of the 3%, which is contributory why we've been averaging 7.8% in municipal payroll costs increase yearly for the last 5 years. Because it isn't the 3% COLAs, it's the built-in steps, et cetera, and adding personnel. We've added a policeman, 2 firemen over the last 5 years. So there's more than just 3%. Anybody who's watching, I don't want people to think we're shortchanging our employees because they're only getting a 3% raise and inflation's running at 4.5 or 5. That isn't the case. Our payroll is climbing by 7.8% a year. So that was the primary rationale for that. Also, do we have the fire and police department contracts available for, or are they new, are they old, are they expired?
Fire and dispatch are new, police is a year older.
Okay.
New in '24.
Okay, we just put those to bed? And those are effective for fiscal '94 or calendar '25?
Police goes through '25.
Calendar or fiscal?
Fiscal.
Okay.
And these two just started.
So they started on
This
a
time next year,
calendar
I will be
20.
working on the police contract.
So these two started on a calendar '24?
Everything's fiscal. Yep.
So did they get a retroactive 6 months?
So July 1st, 2023, fire and dispatch started on a new contract.
And we just signed the contract when?
In the spring.
Okay, prior to July 1st. So, okay, I thought it was like yesterday. All right.
So
Okay,
dispatch
thanks.
goes with fire, not police, huh?
That's just the timing that they are on, so I don't know.
That's how they came up.
If they ended up on a 2-year one time or a 1-year one time, I don't know exactly, I could go back and look if I'm not that interested.
It would be nice if they were still.
Having all 3 at once would be
That would be a
having 2
dream.
at once is a little tough sometimes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But back to the 3%, George. As Bill had mentioned, when we sign these contracts for the police and the fire, they were 3% increments. Yes, there are steps. There's a while before some people get to the steps. There's also a longevity that they just redid, that we're obligated for. But a 7% or a 7.4, I think it is, or is it 7?
7.8.
In an employee situation, to me, no. I am willing to pay that 7 as a taxpayer as opposed to not getting the same level of service, not having the continuity. I think that's a big deal too when Bill talks about the changes that we've had over the years. For instance, if you go back and we lost a town administrator at one point to death, we lived through another 3 years with another one, and then Ross, and when these people leave, there's that gap that costs us money all the time. And it's not just town administrator, that's just an example. Filling the tax collector's office, that was another one that needed to be done. We had one person leave voluntarily, and then we had, a death with the other one. So, these things happen, and then when
three people in that spot since.
Yeah. And so when you have that type of turnover, you're going to see, and it's not just, you're just going to see that the next person that comes in, you're going to have to pay them, according to their level of expertise in whatever thing there is. You've lived corporate. I've lived corporate. A municipal is different on a lot of levels, as you've seen and learned. And also, we just don't pay them very well, no matter what. Part of the reason we lose people is because they can go next door to Lancaster for the same job and make that much more money, or they can go to West Boylston. You know, right, we have a conservation agent. We've already gone through how many in the last?
Coming up on, well, 4 since I've been here.
Yeah, I mean, just that.
One was
And-
retirement and then 2
Right,
others.
you had the retirement, but the reason for them leaving is not necessarily just to better themselves. The reason they leave, according to their exit interview, is they're going someplace else, same job, making more money. You know, or they're going someplace else, maybe not the same job, but definitely more money. So, just saying.
Okay. I have a comment, Marie. I think there's a general misconception on what union contracts and COLA and step increases mean. They do not dictate line item increases. They don't.
But
They,
I don't know, what
on a
does
budget, a police contract, okay, does not dictate police wages in a line item budget increasing. What it dictates is the rate of pay for the individual people involved in the union. What dictates a line item monetary value is how do we manage that resource, okay? If somebody gets, or a group of people get a 10% raise, it does not necessitate that that line item for that group of people rises 10%. It doesn't. It's a question of, I'm sorry, I'm confusing you.
No, I'm listening.
Yeah, but I'm confusing you. I don't want to confuse you. No, I'm not confused. You look confused, Maureen.
No, I'm not confused.
Okay, so,
I'm listening. I'm listening.
okay, oftentimes, and you were in private business before too, a lot of it has to do with productivity. In the private sector, they give out raises in unions all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean every union increase to the individual passes all the way down to the line item for that group of individuals. Does that make sense? It's a question of increasing productivity and efficiencies. So that's why looking at the 8.8%
Okay,
and trying to equate that with the 3% COLA, okay, is really a false comparative. I throw it out there because the 7.8% is reality. It's just comparing numbers. It's arithmetic, okay? The 3%, well, it's sort of reality. It doesn't really mean anything. It's a little bit more than the step increases.
George, I thank you for your opinion. I think we're going to stop with the pontificating right now as we move forward. You can make your suggestions to the board, and we'll discuss them further as we move forward.
Excellent.
With that being said, anything else? David? Bill? Okay, we're going to move on. The Monty Tech discussion, are we doing it? Mr. Todd is not here.
Nope. So, I mean, we can discuss what we'd received at the last meeting. Obviously, I got like the day of the
The
meeting,
letter,
so.
yeah.
I don't know that we need to take any significant action, but at least know what the heck they're asking in the case that there is any budgetary impacts that come with it. We had received an email from Tom Brown, the Monty Tech superintendent,
Yep.
the morning, I think, of our meeting last week, or the day before, noting that there was legislation filed that would remove any entry requirements to vocational schools throughout the state. It was filed by Rep. Kushmerek out of Fitchburg, so obviously Monty Tech would be the one that affects us the most. I guess there was some incorrect, or I'm not sure what the term would be.
Misinformation?
I don't even know if it was misinformation, but the way that it was framed made us think one way versus the other, that it would also allow not just a lottery of the number of students you get, but it's not that. So it wouldn't be more than the allocation that we're currently paying for. It would be the eligibility to enter, so anybody that applied, if we have 100 spots and 100 kids apply, pretty much all of them are going to get in, unless somebody chooses to not go, but that there's not a cherry picking of better or worse kids for a particular program, so.
The way that the state proposal reads, though, is it's a pure lottery within the district, so.
That's what the letter says, but.
Well, not the letter, the regulation that.
Yeah, the draft text.
The draft that's in there, it's short and easy to read.
Yeah, it's only 5 or 6 paragraphs.
Yeah. But it's gonna have the impact, if you read it the way that it's written right now, that larger towns with larger number of applicants are gonna get their unfair share of Monty Tech admissions, and we're gonna end up short of what we're getting right now, probably, right?
Or a random year where we go significantly higher.
Yeah,
so
but
the
that's
likelihood is less,
unlikely.
but
It's more
you know,
likely.
my big concern was, hey, we get 5 more spots next year. We get 5 or 10 less the next year, so we can't really plan for the 25 spots a year that we're currently budgeting. If it's a pure lottery, but I think you might have some other information.
Oh no, I read the bill and it didn't, so this letter says that it calls for the disregarding of the regional district agreement, which nowhere in the bill does it really say that it would do that. And I wasn't sure if I was not reading into something that Mr. Brown read into. So I actually called and spoke to Michael Kushmarek, who sponsored the bill, and it 100% does not disregard our regional agreement. So whatever allotment Sterling has, let's just say it's 20 students per year. I think we have about 60 there now, as far as the information that's on the website. So if we have 20 slots open, we're going to continue to have our 20 slots for Sterling. They will just be blind lottery, not chosen by Monty Tech. But it shouldn't change our numbers at all, according to Mr. Kushmarek. So they will.
Well, then they should reword it, because right now it is stated as a broad lottery within the district. And if they're going to constrain it to say, Sterling, you have 20 lottery slots, Fitchburg, you have 100 lottery slots, and you run your lottery within your available applicants, that's a whole lot different than the way it's currently written.
Could be different too, how other vocational schools, because we're the regional vocational school, I think most of them are regional, but
There's a couple
and
independents.
they all have their own district agreements, right? So it'd probably be very hard for the state to put in all the information for every different district agreement. But on the phone with them, straight from the horse's mouth, it will not change our numbers.
Well, then they better rewrite the wording in there to make it.
Obviously, there's the Senate side and then the conference committee that'll come up with what the final language is, but.
Yeah, but both of them right now, the Senate and the House,
Same
read
thing.
identically, I've read them.
More of a school board, education board type of issue, I would think, than a select board issue, in my opinion. But as far as finances, it's a select board, but according to them, it would not affect us in the manner that is spoken here in this letter.
My only concern was the budget impact, that if it was executed as written right now, we could end up with very few slots, just by the law, large numbers in the lottery. But if it's different, they ought to clarify it so that we don't devastate our budget, I think is some of the concern here by all of a sudden having to fund 100 students on any given year, when you're planning on 20. Yeah.
Lynn?
I just have a question. I always wondered about this because we were paying for 2 girls, I think, to go to some other technical school at a cost of like $80,000 a year.
You have to pay their tuition and transportation.
Transportation. So if there's a lottery that says you can only have so many students at Monty Tech and somebody can't get in, can they then go to some other school?
You can't go to another vocational school unless they have a program that your district school doesn't have.
Okay, even if...
So like where I'm from, Monty Tech is ours, but Franklin Tech has programs, so some kids go to Franklin Tech from my town that, so we're in the same boat paying, you know, transportation and tuition, which is, you know, $18,000-$20,000 a year plus the transportation.
So if they really wanted to go to a technical school, they look for something that has a little bit variance in the program, and they actually decided.
You know, in Beckett, both schools were independent, so McCann and Smith Folk, so I had kids going to both. And then I also had one going to Taconic, so we had to pay for 3 places, and it was a mess. Let alone getting them there.
Those students, I believe, Lynn, were going out to Smith in Western Mass
Yeah.
for veterinary, like for horses. So,
Oh,
and you have to pay it. I mean, the
Cooking program.
that's the whole thing. I mean, when that all started that many years ago, we tried to fight it, and yeah, no go. It is kind of annoying, though. All right,
So continuing on Monty Tech, can I ask one more question?
go ahead.
Is the Sterling Select Board going to take a political position with respect to supporting or not supporting the proposal that's before
You
them?
know what, Joe, that's so funny, because that's really the next question.
You can also read minds.
Amazing. The next question is, Kristen and David, how do you feel about supporting this, or would you like to hold off until it's redone?
My vote would be to hold off.
I'd have to agree. I think clarification needs to be done so that we know exactly what they're trying to accomplish here.
Did they commit to a redraft, Kirsten?
Not when I spoke to them.
But do you know that it's in the works, a redraft?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can find out.
It's been filed, it'll likely get sent to committee on either side, and then, you know, that'll work through, and it won't happen overnight, so.
I was gonna say, it's probably not even gonna be this year by the time, but I would entertain a motion to not support at this time until more clarification, the proposal put forth for Monty Tech.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Neve and I.
Smith, aye.
Grants and I. Is that okay, Joe?
That's perfect.
Jesus. All right. So we actually, Bill, did you want to do your report?
Nothing too significant other than what we've already mentioned. A couple items from the school department. I know that their transportation contract's going up 11% and insurance is 5%. I know they had their budget meeting last weekend, a couple weekends ago, whatever it was, to kind of outline where they were going. They should have their budget information about a month from now, which obviously is significantly, you know, down the road in our process, but we'll be getting that, and most likely Monty Tech's around the same time, beginning of the month, in the next couple weeks, hoping we would have a definitive insurance number on our side. And I've already mentioned about Worcester County Retirement. There is a letter in your packet that I received yesterday afternoon from Senator Durant's office looking for priorities, where we are getting to the completion of our downtown engineering work. We may want to try to submit that as an article to see if we can get some funding through that source in addition to grants and ARPA and whatever else. Obviously we don't have a price at this point, but throw that in there as a significant project that we are looking for. If there are anything else in there that you may want, and you know, you think of it at 2 a.m., let me know.
Give you a call.
You know, the sooner we can get that back, the better, as they start doing their budget process for the state. We did receive the state cherry sheets, which puts us down $185 from the current year, even though unrestricted government aid, UGA, went up 3%. Our charges for, I think, MBTA and regional transportation went up, basically offsetting at that amount, so we're net down. I think the only 3 towns that were down around here were us, Stowe, and Boylston. Everybody else overall was up. Not sure what happened, but it is what it is. At this point, I mean, obviously, ran into Senator Durant yesterday and mentioned that we were one of the towns that were lowered, so once the House and Senate start taking a crack at it, maybe that'll change. And I spoke with the Rutland Town Administrator yesterday. They're still working on the job description of a potential shared conservation agent. That's the only update at this point, so I hope to get that back soon so we have something for the next meeting to discuss.
Kristen? Any questions for Bill? No. David?
Thank you.
Okay, just a few announcements before we actually go into our executive session. Well, a couple of things. The MRPC bill, do we have any projects, or is Stephen working on that? We just got the letter the other day as far as...
Oh, for DLTA funding?
Yeah.
I don't know that we have anything right now. I gotta talk to Stephen about that.
Okay.
We've currently used it for the last couple of years, marijuana bylaw, currently for the MBTA adjacent community bylaw, and there was one for the...
I think there was a zone.
Oh, 40B.
Oh, okay.
Consultant for Northgate.
All right, just, I don't want to miss the next date on that if one of the departments needs something from them for the DLTA. And then, we're also, I can't even use this word, replacement, but we are looking for a replacement for Mr. Mackey. Was deemed it necessary to jump off the ship for Mart. So we want to put that out there.
Is that two separate things, the Mart and the Mart Finance Committee, or is it being a member of Mart, you can be on the Finance Committee?
It could be.
Okay. So it's not two separate positions, potentially? Okay.
One person. Okay, so if you have any questions about what that entails, it doesn't entail driving, it does entail meetings.
But if you want to be a van driver, I know they're looking for some.
So, but you can give Bill or Com a call and they can give you an idea of what that's all about. And then on our next agenda, Bill, can we put in, I know you've done it individually, but maybe do a update on what's happening with the master plan? Some people don't think anything's happening with it, but just to assure people, things are moving.
It is a sitting agenda item on our old business.
Okay.
So we can...
All right, well,
Back
next
that
week,
open.
or our next meeting. And then we have a request for a potential article to be put on for a bylaw change. If you could add that to it and get the copy or the verbiage on that to Dave and Kirsten. And then papers are now available to be taken out, nomination papers for different boards in town. So feel free to stop down at the town clerk's office and pick up a couple. And, you know, there's a seat on the planning board, the select board, Board of Health.
Two, well, there's a appointed that is
Yeah.
in a
So
vacancy, and then there's one other.
there's two on the Board of Health.
Library trustees, I think there's one.
Library trustees, that's kind of a given. DPW board will have a seat if somebody's interested in that. But anyway, it's all posted on the website. You can come in and you get your papers, get signatures in. And then at the same time, do not hesitate to put your name in to be a volunteer on any board or committee, and we'll just keep you in the queue. So when vacancies come up, we'll give you a call.
In perpetuity.
What?
Can I comment? I was hoping Kama was here tonight so I could thank her in person for updating the vacancies page to make it a lot more encouraging and a lot more positive, which she did, and I appreciate that. So I will send her an email as she's out ill right now.
Yeah.
And I will thank her in person the next time I see her.
I'd say that she's probably watching, but that'd be a lie.
I don't think so.
She will watch.
Probably watching
She will watch, but she's not watching right now.
Probably watching Netflix instead or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, louder mouth. Okay, anything else from you, Kristen?
Nope.
David? Nothing. All right, then we will adjourn our regular select board meeting only to come back to adjourn. Yeah. to open our executive session.
Yippee.
Coming.
Yeah. Thank you.
Really